Hey everyone, this is Cassie with Krav Maga Raleigh, and this lesson is for round kicks. Charlie, can I borrow you? All right, yep, we're gonna do this side. All right, so. All right, so round kicks. We have a very square stance, and you guys have probably done a groin kick in the past. If you haven't, I would encourage you to go back and watch the groin kick video first, because one way to think about this is it's a groin kick that instead of going straight up the middle, turns over, okay, and strikes to the side. To throw a round kick, your knee is going to come up and cut across. So this is a kind of cutting across the side of their body. You can keep the pad up there. But to do that, your hips have to open and close, and your foot has to pivot, okay? So make sure you can see my foot here on the bottom. Let's move this way just a little bit. To get that angle, I'm going to pivot my base foot. My base foot heel needs to be pointed at the target. I'm going to kick all the way through. Okay, chest stays up, your hip's going to turn over, and your shoulder is going to go with it. And if you can, you're going to be up a little bit on your toes. You don't have to be a ballerina, but you don't want to be slumped forward, and you don't want to be on your heels. Up, knees facing that way, hip is facing that way, shoulder comes with you, and there's a little bit of pop at the end. Okay, but my hips opening and closing is what gives me that power. And to get the angle and the power, you have to pivot on that base foot. So my knee comes up and pivot. Okay, let's go the other way. So my base foot needs to pivot again, face the target, and do it one more time. Knee comes up, pivot. Okay, and just end in your fighting stance. So let's do this, work this dry. Thank you, Charlie. You're gonna face forward towards your TV or your monitor, feet side by side. Whichever side you are dominant on, usually we do left side together, right side together. You may use your dominant side. So when I say dominant side in your fighting stance, whichever foot is in the back, we'll use that leg, okay? So you're gonna face forward, get into your fighting stance, your normal fighting stance, okay? Hands are gonna be up. All we're gonna do right now is just sort of emphasize the opening and closing of the hips. So when I say one, your front foot, you're gonna step and pivot, okay? Step and pivot. Two, you're just gonna let that door close, your hips close, and bring it around. Okay, so watch one more time. Step on the front foot, pivot, that heel goes out to the side. That's one. Two, you're just gonna let those hips close. Okay, so let's do that together in your fighting stance. And one, two. Good, reset one more time. And one, two. Good, and reset. Okay, so now we're gonna do the same thing. One, you're gonna step. Two, you're gonna let that knee come up, and you're gonna finish. You're not even gonna throw the kick, but you're gonna extend that leg. Okay, if you have to take a step, that's fine. But try to hold it for just a second. Again, it's going to be step one, two, bring your knee up, your hip will turn, your shoulder will turn, and your leg doesn't have to be high. Okay, one and two in your fighting stance. And one, two, and reset. And one, two, good, and reset. All right, so let's put those two things together. I'm going to say go. Do not do this hard. You're going to end in the same position. We're not following through on the kick just yet. On go, you're going to bring your knee up, and you're going to try to pivot at the end and into that same spot that you just were when we stepped and pivoted. Okay, we stepped, pivoted with that knee up. You're not worried about kicking through. You're just going to do the same thing, except you have to pivot as your knee comes up. Okay, let's do that together nice and easy on go. In your fighting stance, hands are up. Ready, and go. Reset. And go. Good, reset. Okay, I know it sucks, but everybody switch their feet. Let's do the other side. All right, so in your opposite fighting stance, we're going to go through the same motion. So again, one, pivot that front foot. Two, just bring your foot around. Do that a couple times before you add that knee coming up. Ready, and one, two. Good, reset. One more time. And one, step pivot. Two, let those hips close. Okay. So now we're going to do the same thing. One, two, that knee comes up, and then we'll reset. All right, ready, and one, two. Good, reset. And one, two. Good, reset. Okay, so now we're going back to that end step. Your knee's going to come up, and you're going to pivot at the end. Okay, and we're just going to say go. With me, hands up in your fighting stance. And go. Reset. One more time, and go. Good, reset. Okay, so you can continue practicing on that on your own, exactly the same way. If you have something like a heavy bag or a person to practice on, this next drill is really helpful. If you don't have a padded surface, it's not going to be something, this is not a drill where we are going to really kick and make contact, so you can use anything that's available that sort of gives you something to rest your leg on, which I'm going to show you how in just a second. Okay, so Charlie, let me borrow you. So he's not even going to need his pad right now. He's going to go ahead and do this fighting stance. I'm right-handed, so he's going to start this right-handed fighting stance. That's fine. He's going to put his hands up and give me free range, free access to his body, because I am not going to kick him. I'm just using him as a target to kind of practice the motion at the same speed that we just did at the end. Okay, so I'm going to bring my knee up, turn over, and come back. Okay, my base foot's going to pivot. I'm going to make sure that I have my knee going across, my hip going across, my shoulders turn, and I want to at the end sort of make sure I've got my chest up, and I want to be on my toes just a little bit. You don't have to be high, but you want to have your weight in your toes and make sure you're not standing on your heel. But I'm just making contact right there in that leg, maybe at 45 degrees and not extending, so if your knee comes a little bit farther across, that's fine. Your knee comes up and turns. Let's face the other direction so we can see the whole picture. So my knee is going to come up a little bit outside his body and turn over. Okay, so it gives me something just to rest on for a second, and I get to work on turning over and making sure everything's right and back down. Okay, if you want to be close to something where you can sort of hold your balance a little more for a second, that's fine. A couple of things to watch out for. Make sure, let's switch back this way, it's a little bit easier to see. You want to make sure that you turn your hip over. Okay, so your hip needs to be facing across because that's the direction your kick's going. You want to make sure your knee's facing that way. Make sure it doesn't turn over too much. It's kind of going down. It's a different kick. It's not what you're throwing. Make sure your shoulder comes with you. Okay, see, I'm kind of facing you. My shoulder's kind of come across my body, and not holding it back. That will hold you back in your power. Okay, and again, make sure your foot is pivoted. Your time, up and back. Last but not least, this is a little harder to do slow, especially if you're not accustomed to kind of standing on your toes and keeping your balance. But try not to crunch down and have that bend in your hip. So hold it a little bit more here, because that again holds your power back too, and that's really common because it feels like a good place to be to keep your balance. Okay, try to have that sort of, don't kick your partner, but try to have not much bend there at the end. Okay, because that stretch, that muscle, that is going to give you that snap at the end when this becomes a kick. Okay, start on your dominant side. You're going to switch your feet. You can do it on the other side to a person, to a heavy bag. It's a little bit harder to hold your leg up on a heavy bag. You don't get as much of a rest as you do on a human body, but it definitely works. Don't go for power. This is pure technique. And your target is not necessarily to the side, because we have a very square stance, but it's more like cutting at that 45 degrees. So like that front side here, not all the way around to the side. Okay? And again, if you have something else you can prop your foot up on or target, this, even if it's not soft, it helps. All right, so go ahead and pause here. Practice that on your partner, on a bag, or whatever you have at home. Okay, so done that drill. If you have a partner with a pad or a heavy bag, you can continue through from that drill. When you grab the pad, please, and do a full round kick. If you are on a heavy bag, you can just kick the bag. And remember that your contact point is going to be your shin. Okay, so make sure when you're on a bag, especially if you're wearing shoes, you're not kicking with your foot or really low down. You can really hurt your foot on a heavy bag without a person to aim for, so be really mindful of that. On a pad, the target is the same. Shin goes on the target. Let's go this way. All right, so pad holders. Notice Charlie is going to be, I'm right-handed, so I'm going to start with my dominant side. He needs to be in the same fighting stance that I am, okay? Actually, you can switch your feet and be opposite if you have a hard time turning. So actually, opposite stance. It doesn't matter as much. They just need to be able to turn their body. He's got one hand up. Go ahead and face them. Actually, may I borrow this? You're going to turn the pad long ways. You're going to hold on that outside handle, okay? Your elbow is going to be up. Your other hand's going to go along the side of the pad. You're going to grab that corner. So that way, you don't have your arms behind the pad, and the pad is flat against your body, okay? You want to make sure that whichever way you are turned, whichever way you are holding for a kick, so if I'm facing you and you are kicking this side of me, I need to turn my hands and then rotate my body about 45 degrees. It's usually easiest to have that back foot be on that side, okay? But that way my arm is up in the back, my front arm is down. If they kick a little deep, you don't want to have your arm down in the back, so where they hit you. So arm down in the front. Flat against my body, my whole body turns 45 degrees, okay? Another helpful thing, since these pads curve a little bit, if you want to tilt down just the tiniest of bits, it may help your partner, especially if this is one of the first times they're doing the round kick. Okay, so Charlie's going to hold for me again. He's doing it perfectly before. Yep, it's going to turn to this side. So he's holding it about 45 degrees. As the kicker, you're going to line up so that the edge of this pad, okay, this front seam right here, is like dead center with your body. Okay, we have people usually try to get to one side or the other, but put the center line of your body right there. Okay, and you can just do the same thing, take your time, or you can do the same thing, knee up, turn over, and just extend at the end. You don't have to kick hard. Do the same thing you were doing, except extend your leg at the end. And as you get more comfortable, you can kick the pad harder and harder. When I want to switch my feet, he's just going to switch the pad to the other side. If he's more comfortable, he can switch his feet as well. It's the same thing, up and over, up and over. And you may also switch your stance. You don't have to do switch kicks, especially if you're just doing round kicks for the first time. Okay, so that is round kicks, level 1 curriculum. A drill you can do at home with or without a partner. And of course, if you have a pad or a bag, you can obviously kick the bag. Okay, don't worry about kicking too high.